When I think about my year, it would be easy to list off the highlights. Dash through the unforgettable moments, or wander through memories of days that seemed like they would never end. Instead, I see the faces of friends, individuals who together became more than we could have dreamed. I see kindness, comfort, celebrations of youth, and a connection to history. I see a coming together of a kindred community. A home that has more heart than words can say. And through it all, I see myself. And I see who I've become. This is my Lincoln.
Hello everybody and welcome to today's Life at Lincoln, everything you want to know about living at college webinar. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and community. We pay our respects to them and their cultures and to elders both past and present. Let us walk together and take care of earth and water as one. So today's webinar is your opportunity to ask our student panel of current and past Lincoln students your questions, not just about accommodation, but about moving to Adelaide, about online study, and about their personal experiences. There'll be a couple of poll questions that you'll see pop up on your screen during today's webinar. We'd really appreciate getting your feedback on those. Today's webinar is also recorded, so please make sure that you share it with your friends and your parents. Now I would like to welcome our wonderful panel of students and past alumni. So firstly, we have Sam. Sam, would you like to join us on the screen and tell us a little bit more about your story, your student journey, and what your future plans are?
Yeah, so my journey so far is I grew up in a small country town called Yadunda in the mid-north in South Australia. I studied at the primary school there, did high school in Tanunda, so about an hour and a half away. And then after my high school education, I decided to study at uni, and I started with a great interest in engineering and sports. So I went down the path of becoming a sports and mechanical engineer. So in doing so, I did have to live in Adelaide, so I decided to look for accommodation. My auntie actually recommended I try one of the colleges, and she recommended Lincoln at the time. So that's where I chose to go. I didn't look at anywhere else, and I just applied for here, and it was, yeah, fantastic. I came here in 2018, so this is my fourth technical year, but halfway through the year, I went on a gap year just spontaneously, and I went to France. And then I lived there, worked there for a year, and I came back, and I decided to come back to Lincoln because it was just such a great community. I had so many friends here, and it was just home for me, away from home. And yeah, after that, I changed to a different degree, Bachelor of Computer Science, and college helped me with that. And yeah, here I am now, looking forward to the future, almost done with my degree. And yeah, now I'm a residential advisor at college. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us, Sam. So if anyone in our audience has questions for a more experienced collegiate, you just said you're almost in your fourth year, or you are in your fourth year. So if anyone has any questions, you are the expert. Thank you so much for joining us, Sam. I would next like to introduce Alicia Rose. Alicia, if you can join me. It would be wonderful to hear your journey so far and your future plans.
Right. Well, I'm very similar to Sam in that I grew up in a small rural town, which is actually on the Eyre Peninsula. I'm from Cleve. So when I finished year 12, I decided to come over to Adelaide to go to university. And I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to study, but I was sure that I wanted to go to college because I had friends that went to Lincoln the year before me. So I never really took an official tour. I came and I saw my friends and they showed me around the place. Similar to Sam, I didn't look at anything else. I walked on the lawns and I saw the stunning buildings and I knew that Lincoln was it for me. And since being at Lincoln, I started here in 2018. So same as Sam, I'm also fourth year. I had my first year, which was wonderful. I played a lot of the sports, went to probably nearly every event. And in my second year, I joined the college club, which is the volunteer organisation that runs most of the social events and the sports, and had another fantastic year, which was so much fun. And going into my third year, I decided to apply for the residential advisor team, which was very different to the role I'd done the previous year and was a lot more responsibility, but was something that I was ready to step up to. So I did last year as a residential advisor through COVID, which was super crazy, but just as rewarding. And this year I'm still at Lincoln. I've officially graduated university, but I'm still here working alongside Jordan as the residential advisor coordinator and working with Sam, which has been really wonderful and keeps me very busy, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
Wonderful. Thank you, Alicia. I've got lots of questions coming up, so we'll come back to you on a few of those points. But Josh, if you'd like to join us and give us a brief introduction about your story and how you've come to be at Lincoln this year.
Yep. So I grew up in Mount Gambier. I spent most of my life there. I was born somewhere else, but that's irrelevant now. And I went to the same school from reception to year 12. And I guess after, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, and I had planned to having a gap year. But when I changed my mind, I decided that it would probably be best for me to come to a college fresh out of school rather than living somewhere by myself. So I'm studying exercise and sports science now. I haven't lived here very long because I graduated last year, so I don't hold any positions. But I'm currently just having the time of my life, I guess.
Amazing, and particularly through a tough year for everyone to be able to be in a college environment, and obviously having your gap year plans change as well. So wonderful. Yeah. Look forward to speaking with you further. And finally, we have another Alicia joining us. So Alicia's actually an alumni of Lincoln, so we thought we'd have the past student perspective as well for someone that's been at college for quite some time. So Alicia, over to you.
Hey, so I'm Alicia Hinge. I'm from Boardtown, so I did all of my schooling there, lived there my whole life, and I decided late in year 12 that I was going to go to uni, decided against having a gap year. And my older sister went to Lincoln, so I was, out of all the North Adelaide colleges, I was going to go to Lincoln just because she loved it. I'd visited a few times and I just loved the vibe and the feel of it. But I remember when I went for my interview, the principal, because I had applied for Flinders, she actually encouraged me, said, "Why haven't you applied for Flinders?" And there was something about living closer to the city and the vibe of Lincoln that I was just like, nah, I just don't want to go there. And it just wasn't for me. And I knew Lincoln was. So I stuck with my gut and very glad with my decision. I ended up staying for 4 years. So I started at Lincoln in 2017 and was there until 2020. And I hold a few different positions. Like Alicia Rose, I was on the social team in my second year, then went to the residential advisor team in 2019, and then in 2020 went back to the volunteer team and was the president of the student club, which was really rewarding. Learned so many different things and skills that I've taken into the workforce and different jobs I've got now, and will hopefully take into my education degree, as I'm hoping at the end of the year I'll graduate and I'll get a primary teaching job somewhere next year.
Fantastic. Wonderful. Well, we'll ask everyone else to turn their cameras back on, and the remainder of the session will have a Q&A style. So we encourage anyone that's listening in today to either post some questions in the Q&A, either directly for a student or more generally about life at Lincoln. And you may have seen as well, we've got Jordan able to answer questions in the background. So if you have any questions at all, that's really what we're here for, and to share the student experience. So we'll get into some of those questions. And I might start with you, Sam. So really all of you have had a similar experience in you previously lived in South Australia, and presumably had the opportunity to travel interstate for university. So I'm interested in what the decision-making process for you was to stay in Adelaide, and what that looked like for you as a Year 12 student.
So in Year 12, I really wanted to stay in South Australia because I had a lot of family around here. Most of my cousins actually went through Adelaide Uni, and some of them went through sporting teams and different kind of clubs, and I thought, that sounds like the place for me. It offered one of the degrees I wanted at the time, which was sports and mechanical engineering, and that's not really a thing that's commonly offered. So that's what hooked me into Adelaide, and when I switched degrees, I followed through with Adelaide Uni because I already had some subjects under my belt there.
Yep, fantastic. Had anyone else considered moving interstate? Was that part of your offer process for university degrees, or was Adelaide always the place you were going to be?
I mean, yeah, it was always a place for me that I was going to be, so yeah. Yep,
fantastic. And Josh, so you mentioned you finished school last year,
Yep.
So had a bit of time over summer to relax through COVID, and then moved to Lincoln in February, would have been. So I'm interested in what that decision-making process was like for you, whether you looked at any options interstate, or whether studying in Adelaide and then living in a residential college was your preferred pathway.
Yep. So I had thought about going interstate, but really the problem was just that I didn't apply in time, and I'd only applied in South Australia. So that's kind of what decided it. But I only really wanted to go to Adelaide anyway, which is why I didn't really try applying to other states on time.
Yep.
Just because it's closer to my family, I guess. I think I was a bit scared to move anywhere else that was too far away. And then I guess considering COVID for me, I knew I probably wouldn't be able to get over the border as easy if I wanted to come home. And I knew this was like, I'd always be able to come home if we were in another lockdown again or something, which ended up happening. So it worked out well for me.
Yep. And I'm interested as from the first year experience, what that experience has been like for you through the lockdowns of Adelaide, but being able to be in a community of friends from everywhere, from around the world, and I guess how you were supported and what that connection meant to you through your first year or during your first year of university.
Yeah, well, I guess the lockdown was a lot easier this time around than it was last time, because I guess last year at home was pretty lame. I could only stay at home and go to work, but it doesn't really feel like a lockdown when you're at Lincoln College, because the campus is at home, so we can walk anywhere we want around here, and because everybody lives here, we can see who we want. So even though we couldn't leave the college, it was pretty good because everybody was still here, so we still had a lot of fun. And then I guess the support of having academic tutors around us to help us through uni as well. We didn't really need to rely on in-person classes as well if we would have had to. So,
yep, fantastic. One of the many benefits to living in such a large community is you have access to a lot of that support that we'll delve into in a bit more detail down the track. But I'm just going to draw on a question which has just moved from Jemima from memory. So I might put this to you, Alicia Rose. So Jemima asks, what was it like to move to the city from a rural town? Challenges, highlights, any advice you have, particularly from the RA residential advisor perspective? You would see many students who have different experiences with moving to the city. So what would be your advice?
For me personally, I always wanted to go to the city, and I always knew that was going to happen for me. So when I moved, I was really, really excited. But it definitely doesn't mean that I didn't get homesick, because I did. And when you first start at college, I can't say what this would be like if you weren't to move to a college, if you're in your own accommodation. But particularly when you move so far from home, being at college and having the support base of the friendships you make, firstly, and secondly, the teams that surround you is huge. And in particular, when you first move over, it's a really, really busy time, and that is fantastic because it keeps you preoccupied, and you don't think about all the things that you're missing at home. And so that really helps as well. Sorry, what is there anything else that I missed there?
No, I think you've covered advice, challenges, highlights. And Alicia might also be able to jump in here, given your experience now working in a boarding environment with students who are sort of going through that decision-making process. So what might be some advice that you would give to those students, year 11, year 12, who are thinking this very question? And I see we've got it from Shakira as well. You know, what are some of the challenges, and how can they be overcome?
Yeah, it is a big challenge moving from, say, like my school. I had 50 people in my year 12 year, and then moving to a college where there's 80 other first year students is quite overwhelming. But simple things like actually saying hello to people and just being brave and actually putting yourself out there, just the tiniest bit will mean that you make friends a lot quicker. And also reminding yourself that there's, like I said, 80 or so other people potentially who are in the exact same spot that you are, and they are just as scared. So talking to them and bonding with them over that first, and then figure out different things about them and stuff like that. So yeah, just reminding yourself that not to be too hard on yourself. Everyone's in the same boat. And I would rather know that there's 60 to 80 other first years in the same boat rather than living in a house by myself, panicking, ready for the first day of uni.
Absolutely, which is a wonderful segue into talking about college life itself, and the activities, the events, the academic support. I've seen a question about that as well. So turning now to Lincoln and your collective experiences at Lincoln. Why live in a residential college? Sam, I might start with you. What would be your top moments from college, and the reasons why you would recommend to anyone to live in a college?
There's a great, like in my first year, I experienced probably one of the greatest family atmospheres within a group of friends that I've ever felt. So I was on a floor that had a lot of new residents, but then mixed in with some older ones. And we all became really close and would just go out into the corridor, talk, do homework in the middle of the corridor, like lying out and play music and just have these great like conversations. And we just became our own kind of family. And then that extended out to the rest of college. And I know all these amazing people now. And you'd have these fun events like sports, different academic events, all these fun things that I really didn't get to experience living really rural. And I just thought it was fantastic. So it really hooked me in my first year. And I highly recommend it to anyone who's looking for something to do. And just, yeah, first year is just mind-blowing, amazing, and it just makes you want to stay here.
Makes me miss my uni days. Wonderful, thanks. And Alicia Rose, what's been your experience, your favourite memory, and something that you've really cherished about living at Lincoln?
I wish I could say everything, but I totally agree with Sam. And leading off of what Alicia said before, it can be so daunting moving away and having to make friends. But one of the best things that Lincoln does is the events. All those social events, they help you get to know people and they help you make your friends. And they are by far my highlight, is the way that everyone comes together when we have these events, which you wouldn't even dream of when I came from a very small town I had 14 kids in my senior year, And when you all get together, the atmosphere at college is absolutely insane. When you have 160 residents all doing one thing together, there's just something in the air that you don't experience anywhere else. And just leading off of what Alicia said before about it being daunting to make friends, these events facilitate that for you. You don't have to walk up to someone randomly and say, hi, because all the teams put together these events that put you in that situation where you don't need to do that yourself, if that makes sense. So that's been fantastic for me. Every year, my friendship group changes. Every year you meet new people and it grows, and people that you didn't know, people I barely knew in my first year are some of my closest friends now, which is really crazy to think. But the same as what Sam said, when I moved here in my first year, I thought I'll live at college, I'll make some friends, and then I'll move out with those friends at the end of first year. And then in second year, I said I would move out again. And in third year, I said I'd move out again. And here I am in my fourth year. So once you start, it's really hard to leave because it's just so wonderful. It makes you want to keep coming back.
Fantastic. And I think that story is very common, that students commit to the first year and you know, to support them through their first year of university without realising all of the benefits that come and particularly those friendships and connections. So I suspect there's many other students that stay on. Do students tend to stay on for a couple of years? What sort of I don't know if there's an average or what that would look like for students?
I don't know any statistics or anything like that, but I think most people are more likely to stay at least for a second year than they are to leave. Usually first year retention's quite high, and then after then it changes a little bit. And it also depends on the year often. Either you can have, we've previously had really high retention or really low, because once friends start going, it can kind of start to take out like big chunks of people. But generally, I don't know a lot of people that leave after the first year.
Excellent. And I think that draws nicely into talking to you, Alicia, about the college club experience, which is such a big part of the Lincoln experience and drawing on the events and opportunities that many of you have spoken about. So if you could, I guess, just run through who the college club is and what that structure is, because I think it's one of the very unique aspects of college life, different to high school or perhaps different to what students might be used to.
Yeah, so a way to describe it similar to high school is your SRC, your student rep council sort of thing. So ours as a college club, we're volunteer. We are elected by the peers, so all of the students living at Lincoln. And I'm trying to think now, I think it's 13 people. Oh, I've forgotten. And so you have your general, you have so you have a president, vice president and secretary and treasurer, but then you have different roles below that. So there's your sports officers, there's different people who their job is solely to just create events on different scales and that sort of thing. There's a international officer and just different roles like that. And it is a great opportunity for these people to build up their skills, practice running events and stuff like that. And to be able to apply for that in your second, third or fourth year is amazing. And there's so many different skills you learn from the college club team, but also the other teams as well, which you take out of college and it comes in very handy, I've found.
Did you find going into the workforce once you'd left college or decided to leave college last year that you were able to draw on a lot of those leadership experiences, in job interviews or in your work setting now?
Yeah, definitely. So my different job interviews, just being able to be more confident and speak in front of larger crowds and stuff like that. Also for myself personally, being on a board, stuff like that comes in very handy. And when on placements for teaching and stuff like that, talking to different people and managing social situations and different things and different subjects at uni as well. Like I've had a course that was literally planning an AFL Nines carnival, and I'm like, in my head, I'm just thinking I've done that 4 times because I planned these sporting events at college, and I'm like, so different things like that, they come in handy.
Wonderful, thank you. And we might now turn to the academic aspect of college life. I've seen there's been some brilliant questions coming through, so thanks for those. In terms of the academic support, so I might start with you, Sam. So drawing on your experience, you changed degree. You said that the college supported you in that change. What did that look like for you, and how has that helped, I guess, keep you at university and for you to find success?
So through the college, they have, as we've mentioned, the academic tutors, and they each kind of fall under their own faculty. So mine fell under the ECMS, engineering, computer maths, computer maths and sciences. So within that, I was able to talk to other residents who had also changed degrees and completed these courses, and they were just able to give me tips about changing and what courses were I could actually count towards both degrees, and if I needed any help, I knew I could turn to these people and my academic tutor. And so I felt extremely comfortable changing degrees, and I had no issues whatsoever. It was really smooth.
Wonderful. And Josh, how about you, particularly as a first year student going from high school directly into university? How have you found the academic support at Lincoln?
I found it pretty good. I know like Beck, my tutor, is like, she's always there. She helps me whenever I need her. And it's especially good being put with people in your cohort, so that like there's 2 other students from my year who are doing the same degree as me. So I guess knowing who they are and being able to have access to them as well is just as good as the tutors, really, because like you could make friends at uni and just text them, but then having them live like 10 meters away from you is pretty good, because you can just ask them anything you need to at any point in time.
Particularly when you're doing assignments at 1 o'clock in the morning, to have others to do that with, and also to have the facilities and I guess the support. Everyone's in the same boat, as was mentioned earlier. And Alicia Rose, from the residential advisor perspective, so perhaps if you can provide some context around the difference between an RA, residential advisor, and the college club, and the support academically and personally that you provide to students.
So within college, we have the 3 teams, as just mentioned, the academic tutors who solely handle academic and cohort events, the residential advisors, and college club. College club, like Alicia said, are much like a student council, where they're voted in and chosen by the people, and largely they run a lot of the typically like fun events, the social events, the sporting events. Whereas the residential advisor team, we also run some events which are corridor functions, as there's 1 residential advisor on every floor, and so they'll run events for their floor. But an RA's main priority is pastoral care. So we're here for the residents. It can be, as previously mentioned, really daunting moving so far from home, especially if you don't know anyone, or even if it's a different city, a different state, even a different country. So our main job is to look after the residents in what they need and how we can support them on more of an emotional basis, in whatever the way they need, whether that's them coming to talk to us when they have an issue, or whether it's just those regular check-ins. Hey, how you going? Making sure they're settling in okay. That's more our domain rather than being as event focused.
Yep. And further to that, I know Lincoln run quite a few academic events. It's not all, well, they are still social, but it's not all social events. There's also the academic and I guess pastoral care events. Can you tell us about any of those, any particular memories you have from those experiences through your time at Lincoln?
Yeah. For academic events, they're always run by the academic tutors. For me, when I came to college, I didn't really know what I wanted to study. The degree that I've just completed is a Bachelor of Health and Medical Sciences, which is very, very broad. And that's why I chose it, because when I came to uni, I knew I wanted to be in the health sector, but I didn't exactly know where. So I started this degree thinking that I would transfer into something else when I figured out what I really wanted to do. In my first year, it was wonderful because there was lots of people doing this degree. So our health science cohort would run events, and we would all get to sit down and talk about what we liked and what we didn't like, and eat pizza and talk about what was really hard at uni this week and what we enjoyed, and that was really fantastic. But one of my favorite events that the academic tutors run is a academic panel, and each cohort will run one of these. So for me, it was the health sciences. And your academic tutor organised for people of different professions to come in and speak to us. So, for example, we would have maybe like a nurse, an OT, a physio, and a researcher or something like that. So they're all in the health science field, and they would come in very similar to what we're doing now, talk to us about what they do, what they love about what they do, why they do it, what a typical day would look like, so that we could get an idea of what it might be like to work in that field. And that's always been something that I loved because I had never had any idea what I wanted to do. So as far as academic events go, I think those are fantastic. Residential advisor events are corridor functions. These can be nearly anything. It can be as simple as pizza and a movie if that's what your corridor want, if they just really want to relax and hang out and be something really casual, or it could be something like go-karting or laser tag. Often the floors can get very competitive. I know there's a couple floors right now really looking forward to going go-karting really soon. So it really, really diverse events.
So when we say that your uni years are some of the best in your best time of your life, I think that's really true. And having those experiences with friends, and so many different friends that you might otherwise not have exposure to, you might not otherwise meet, I think is so critical to that saying, the best years of your life, I think is really true. And Alicia, from an alumni perspective, were there opportunities to connect with other alumni, or Alicia Rose has just mentioned connecting with professionals, but other people that are connected with Lincoln? What's been that like? And also now that you're away from Lincoln, what is your connection like with the college now?
Yeah, so it's been a little bit different this year just because of COVID. Sometimes there's been less events with Old Coles alumni on site. For obvious reasons, but it's we have normal barbecues. There'll be different alumni events that we can catch up, come together, which is really good. With connecting with other professionals, I'd say there's not a heap of education students at the college, but I would know a large percentage of education students from the last 5 years or so who have been there just through the different panels. They often come back and talk to us, which is really good. So being able to stay in touch, and if in education, it's who you know, and that's how you get jobs. So that's very handy. I found this on my first professional experience, actually. My mentor teacher was actually lived at Lincoln for a year, and that I just got paired with a random teacher at a random school in Adelaide, and she happened to have gone to Lincoln. So to be able to have that connection is just so odd and random, but it was amazing to be able to sort of talk to her, and she was very interested to see what's happening there now. Yeah,
and it really does stay with you for life, this experience living at Lincoln. So being able to connect with different people, I've certainly found that in my professional life now. You've always got that shared college experience to draw on, and to use in job interviews, and to share with other people about what your university experience was like. So I'm going to jump to you, Josh, and draw on this question that's come through from Tia, which I love. So she's asked, what does a typical day look like for you, both at college and university? You've got meals, you've got classes to attend, online or in person. So generally, what does a day look like in the life of Josh at Lincoln?
So I guess generally I would sleep in and wake up very, very late. I do spend most of my days either studying or sitting in other people's rooms, so I'm not really by myself usually ever at all, and will go to uni when I have to, but it'll generally be a lot of either studying or sitting in people's rooms or going places with other people. Quite a busy week, and then if you've got nothing to do, it's really easy to find something to do. So I don't really spend that much time sitting around, I guess. What else? I'm not really sure.
Do you play sport, or what groups or teams are you involved with at college?
So I don't actually play any sport. So I don't really do much on the sports side of things. We do have like academic drop-ins every Wednesday, so I'd like to go to those. And then I guess the events on the weekends, but I don't really do a whole lot outside of what I've got here, only because I haven't been here that long.
Yep. Yeah, fantastic. And I think that's an important point, that there are so many different elements to life at Lincoln. You don't, just need to be involved in the sport or the music or the academic side of things. Everything is available to you, and I've seen the college calendar, and it's really quite extensive when you think about how much is going on, a few events a week and on weekends and so on. So getting involved in different elements of college life. And how about you, Sam? What would an average day or typical day look like for you at Lincoln?
So I'm a bit like Josh, and I do enjoy my sleep-ins, and I have planned it so I have a lot of my classes in the afternoon, so that enables that. And yeah, usually I'll start off my day having a shower, and then getting lunch, or like I'll study in the morning, then I'll grab lunch, and then I would usually have uni soon after, and that might take up most of my day. And then I would return to college, have dinner, and I might hang out with some people after dinner. Usually I would also be gymming. I haven't been able to of late due to surgery, but there's a gym down the road, and there's a local gym like within the college that I would use daily, and I think it's fantastic. And yeah, I would do that either in the mornings or late night. But yeah, usually evenings are a very social thing around college, at least for me. I'll go and knock on someone's door, or I'll ask if someone wants to watch a movie, or we could even go to the cinemas down the road, COVID permitting. So yeah.
And is that what you missed about college life when you decided you were going to move out, and then through that experience of, what was it that you missed about college life?
So I missed having my friends right there. I would, like in my first year, I would just walk out of my room, knock on the door next door to me, and just ask, hey, would you like to go for a bakery run? Or would you want to just go grab a hot chocolate? And it'd be a social thing, and it'd be just a nice way to get out of your room and have a break from studying. And then you could plan random events with your friends. And like there's botanical gardens down the road. You could just go and have a picnic. I just found it fantastic that everything was close by, and all my friends were close by, and I did miss that a lot. So that's why it drew me back.
Yep. And for anyone not from Adelaide on the session today, there's a 24-hour bakery within walking distance to college. So always a popular. I could see everyone nodding when you mentioned that. And speaking of food, let's talk about the food. It's such a big part of college communities, is being able to dine together. So I'm interested what the food is like. Alicia Rose, we might start with you. What are some of the sort of typical meals, and what is that experience like dining with so many of your friends?
It's really fantastic, actually. The experience of having a dining hall full of people. There's usually at least 50 upwards people, and I was reading a question in the Q&A on the side here just before, and it asked about our favorite facility in college. Yeah. And I think lots of people would be drawn towards, the common space with the pool table, or, something like that. But for me, it's the dining hall. I find it to be a very, very social place. It's when you go to uni all day, or you have work, you come home and you go to dinner, and you just walk in and you see all your friends and all your family, I suppose, and to all get down and sit together in these huge tables, it kind of just buzzes. And I think it's a really, really fun way to have dinner compared to what it's like when you're at home is very, very different. It's kind of like you're going out for dinner every night because you're with all your friends. The food itself has changed over the time that I've been at college. We've swapped catering companies. And so this year, the food is pretty good. We typically have the catering company that we have now. They like to do lots of different types of food. They like to get us to try new things. The old catering company kind of had a very routine kind of menu that repeated. Now we get all kinds of things from paellas to stir fries to schnitzels. We eat a lot of chicken, which is good. We have our regulars like schnitzel night, pasta night, which are always super popular, especially when they come with garlic bread. So I think the food is honestly a lot better now than it was when I first started at Lincoln.
Wonderful. And how about you, Josh? What was the food and dining experience like for you?
Yeah, I'm the same as Alicia. I love sitting in the dining hall. It's probably like one of my favorite ways to be social. It's really, really nice having so many people to, I guess, sit around and eat with when, like, if you've been studying in your room all day, you'll be able to see people at a mealtime. So it's like something to look forward to, I guess. And the food has actually been a lot better than I had expected it to be. I thought it would be a lot of sludge, but it has turned out to be quite nice. I'm surprised. But yeah, schnitzel nights and pasta nights are everybody's favorite nights. And yeah, it is nice having lots of different things, and especially dessert after dinner every night.
For sure. And I see Shakira is familiar with the bakery on O'Connell. So yes, always keen for desserts. And Sam, what happens when students either they've got class or they might have a part-time job and aren't able to attend a particular mealtime?
So there is a form you can fill in. So you're able to actually order late teas or such, and they'll be stored in a fridge just outside of the dining hall, just across the dining hall. So you can come and grab that when you get back, or if it's a late night, just rock up 9 p.m., open the fridge, there's your meal ready, and you have microwaves in every kitchenette. So if you want to warm it up, it's all good. And usually there's a variety of choices, and you can be as specific as you want with these job forms. So yeah.
Fantastic. Is it something you miss, Alicia, being out of college, is having that experience? I know you've gone now working in a boarding environment, so you'd get elements of that certainly, but what's your feeling?
No, it's not quite the same. I live in a boarding house and I'm still catered for here, which I am incredibly thankful for. So it's, similar in that sort of way, but because I'm sitting with students and that sort of thing. So there's a bit of an age gap, but like they eat their lunch and like meals very quickly, which I'm like amazed by. They'll be in and out in like 10 minutes, whereas at Lincoln it is the complete opposite, particularly for me. I'm pretty sure you guys are all the same. I'll end up sitting there eating tea or lunch for an hour, and I'm definitely not eating the whole time. I'm just talking to different people and talking to like so many different people from all over the place, studying different things, finding out what they do with their day. So I think it's that element that I miss. Like the food where I'm is great, same with Lincoln, but it's the talking to people who have done completely different things with their day that I miss the most about the dining hall and the food at Lincoln.
Yeah. And we'll stay with you, Alicia, because we've got I see some questions coming through, and we know it's a common question. How do I pay for college, and what does that look like in terms of, I guess, the nuts and bolts of the college experience? So many people want to have it, but what does that look like from a practical perspective? And you mentioned earlier you were a recipient of a number of scholarships. So can you tell us about that, and I guess what that looked like for you, and how that enabled you to stay at college for so long?
So college is around 20 grand, which is quite a bit. I was very, very lucky to receive the same scholarship all throughout my journey at college. So I received the Henderson Scholarship. So that's particularly for country rural SA students with financial need. So that is amazing. So that sort of varies each year. So some years I received 5,000 off, some years I received 2,000 or 3,000. They also have bursaries, which is really good. So most years I was receiving about 5,000 off just through scholarships. There's also the other scholarships as well based on academic merit and different things and community contributions and stuff like that, which is also brilliant to apply for. So I highly suggest putting your name in for scholarships. I remember applying in year 12 for scholarships and I'm like, I'm not going to get this. Like, I was one of those people throughout school who just like didn't get sort of that stuff. And I'm like, nah, that's just not going to be me. And I remember getting rung on the day I also received my ATAR from the principal at the time, just saying, we're giving you 5,000. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. So that was amazing. Then also, so some people at college have jobs. So I had a job in my final year as a coach. And so it's quite like, it's a bit to juggle, but if your uni allows you to, and if you need to pay for college, you need to pay for college. So I, worked a lot and that helped me a lot. But also with COVID and I lost my job for a bit, I remember just going to Paul Tosh, our CEO, just going, I need help. And he was amazing with that sort of thing. So it's, they're like, if you are in financial need, the college is like incredibly supportive of that and they understand and they'll support you as much as they can.
Yes, and I think it's important to remember as well, there are so many scholarships available through your university as well. And often through community groups like Rotary, so that there might be scholarships in your local community that will support you to go to university. So as you say, Alicia, you've got to put your name in it and go for it because they really can be life-changing opportunities.
Yeah, I also suggest talking to your year 12, if you're in year 12 or still in your local community, talking to your year 12 coordinator and that sort of thing. Those sorts of people in the schools actually know a whole lot about scholarships and different ones within the local community that often not that many people apply for. So it's also handy to put your name in the ring for those.
Yeah. And Alicia Rose, roughly, if you know, how many students on your floor or your corridor would have jobs? Is it the majority that are working part-time or casually to support themselves, or what does that sort of generally look like?
I can't say for my floor in particular, but quite a few people do have jobs. I think also a lot of students are supported by Centrelink. I know I was for the first few years of my college. They have payments for students, and they definitely helped me through my first few years. But most students, either if they don't have a job, they have Centrelink. But there is probably I wouldn't say it would be maybe 30 or 40% of residents that have jobs, if I was to take a stab at it. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And for you, Josh, or anyone that may have been through this process, but did anyone look at a cost comparison? Did you consider or weigh up the costs of living in a share house or in private rental? Because I know there's plenty of information on the Lincoln website about the cost comparison. So even though I think it was you, Alicia, that mentioned the overall total college fee, but when you break that down over the academic year, so you're not paying rent for 12 months, you're only paying for the period that you're at university. So when you actually do the sums on what is included, all of your utilities and internet and facilities and social life, academic support is all included in that fee. So it is really important to consider that and I guess do a cost comparison, equating that to what you would otherwise be paying to live in Adelaide and study at university. So did anyone go through that process? Did you do the sums and see what that would look like for you?
When I was considering coming to a college, I actually didn't really want to because I didn't really like the idea of making my parents spend that much money on me because I felt awful about it. But Mum was actually the one that encouraged me, and when we looked at the costs, I think it does kind of eventually even out because of all the facilities that we have. Like there's a gym here because I would have been having to pay for a gym membership somewhere else, and then I guess all the food and that. But I think the social life is probably one of the most important things that you're getting out of the payments that you wouldn't be getting if you just were in a share house. Because I know for a fact that if I had ended up just going in a share house with some people I didn't know, I would have nowhere near as many friends as I have made since living here.
Yep. Alicia, did you want to jump in there? No, all good. I was just going to bring up, I think Lachlan asked a question, and I might direct this to you, Sam, about, I guess, the additional expenses, or I'm not sure if he's referring to sort of social expenses, or when you think about the college fee, how much roughly, I know there's no exact science to that, but how much roughly would students need for living expenses outside of their Lincoln fees?
I mean, if you are really tight for money, I reckon you could just get by with just paying for Lincoln, because you do have your food supplied, you have like gym, you have washing, like that's all free and included with Lincoln fees. Otherwise, I would say I maybe spend at most, I could spend $100 a week outside on food, but that's just when I'm getting like snacks and other stuff. I don't think you have to really spend a lot more on extra things. Within college, there are like some pub nights you might be encouraged to buy a shirt, which would be maybe $20, and that's not forced upon everyone. So yeah, if you do have a tight budget, you can definitely be careful and still attend so many things and get so much out of college, so you don't really have to worry about that.
Yep. Does everyone else agree? Any other advice to add to that one for Lachlan? No, they all agree. Fantastic. Thanks, Sam. So we've now got some time to, I guess, draw on some of these questions that are coming through. But before I go to those, I just wanted to make mention that Lincoln does have an open day coming up. So many of you will be familiar with the open days at the universities here in Adelaide, and indeed interstate as well. So I think it's really important. The best way to understand the Lincoln experience and what that might look like for you is to have a tour, is to chat with current students, and go on site and really understand what that experience is like. So I understand students can do that really at any time, including weekends. And of course, the open day that's coming up, not this weekend, but the following weekend, is a really good opportunity to see the college and hear these student experiences. So I'll pull out some of these questions here. Really loved the questions that are coming through at the moment. So Lachlan asks, and I think it was you, Alicia Rose, that mentioned formal dinners. So tell us about the formal dinner experience. What does that look like? How often do you do it? And I think Lachlan asks, do you have to go?
So for dinner, most of the time, our dinner is actually very casual. What are the formal dinners, which we have about one a term, and a formal dinner is when everyone comes in at the exact same time. We all sit down together and we have our meals brought to us, which is pretty special, which is not what we would usually do. These, as I said, only happen about once a term. As they're a special occasion, you get a little bit dressed up, which is nice. But otherwise, dinners are really casual. It makes it really accessible and malleable to your schedule. Formal dinners are harder if you know you're going to be late, then it's not as accessible. And that's why we have the late tea form. But you don't have to go to formal dinners. You don't have to go to, I don't think there's the only compulsory events would be things like meeting with your AT occasionally and those kind of things. But we're not going to force you to do any event that you don't want to, including formal dinner. We would only encourage that you do because we think that you'll have a really good time.
Yep. And for you, Sam, Lachlan's asked another great question here in similar vein. So he asks, are there minimum requirements of events you have to attend at the college? So the element of compulsion that students might be used to from their high school days or from their family, perhaps. How is that different at Lincoln?
So nothing's really compulsory. We just, as Alicia said, you're really encouraged to, because it is such a fun time. And usually we don't have to actually encourage people. They just want to go to a lot of things. There is a lot of hyper end events, but yeah, if you don't want to go to anything, you don't have to. I believe the only things that you do really have to go to are, there are some meetings, like Alicia said, and yeah, otherwise it's up to you if you want to participate or not.
And Alicia, from your perspective, now again being back in that boarding environment, how is that different to boarding school? I know some people that may not know someone that's had the college experience might think that a college is like boarding school. What would be your advice to them?
Yeah, so there's obviously similarities between boarding schools and uni accommodations, but at boarding schools, you literally get checked off if you're at tea, and if you don't, you get followed up on. At uni accommodation, we just assume you've fed yourself. And with different events and stuff like that, like you don't have to come. In a boarding house, the staff should know your every single move nearly. So it's, quite different in that regard. Yeah.
Yep. Fantastic. Thank you. And I might direct this one to you, Josh, being the most recent that's been through the application process. But if you can just speak about what some of those steps were in terms of applying. And particularly Tia asks, do you apply for college even if you think you might have a gap year, or should you wait and apply the following year? What was that experience like? Do you submit an application online? Do you have an interview? What did that look like for you?
So when I applied was when I was thinking about not having a gap year anymore, and I was encouraged to apply. So I'm pretty sure it's okay. Like, you can apply if you're planning on having a gap year. I remember, I think it was just like an online application, just filling out a few details about yourself, what you're planning on doing. I think they ask for just things like what you think your ATAR is going to be, I think, and that sort of thing. And then after you do the online application, I got a text from Paul, the CEO, asking if we could just interview me over the phone. So he called me, I think, that night. And it was literally just a 2-minute conversation. He asked me, I think, one question, and I answered it. And it was pretty simple. It was quite casual too. Like, you would expect it to be like this scary, like you would be applying for uni in person, but it's like, it was really nice. Paul was easy to talk to, and he made the application really quick and easy, I guess.
Wonderful, thank you. And how about you, Alicia Rose? What was your recollection of the application process? I don't know if you had considered a gap year or whether you knew straight away that you'd go straight from high school to university?
I didn't think about taking a gap year just because I thought if I stop studying, I might lose my momentum. I'm not sure if I'll be able to get it back. So I went straight to college, but you can definitely apply if you know you're going to take a gap year. We'd love to hear from you no matter what you choose, and we'll be waiting to hear from you when you do finish your gap year. For me, as I said, I didn't do an official tour, but after I did tour, I think I'd already done my application prior to that because I already knew that was where I wanted to go. So when I finished my application, I got contacted, I think by admin staff, and they put me in touch with Jordan, and I came in person and had an interview with Jordan. Much the same as Josh. It was quite casual. Mine, I think, went for a little bit longer. Wouldn't have been, probably more around 5 to 10 minutes. But as you'll know, anyone that's spoken to Jordan, is she's the most easy person to talk to. And it was a really, really positive experience for me. Like Josh said, it seems like it's going to be daunting, but when you get there, it just all falls into place.
Fantastic. And I guess you'll have many opportunities for interviews in your professional life, so it's really practice for getting you ready for those situations. It's about understanding who you are as a person and I guess your motivations to study in Adelaide and what that looks like for you. So I'm conscious of time. We might go a couple of minutes over. We're getting some excellent questions coming through. And I just wanted to, I can see 3 of you, I think, are in your college rooms at the moment. And Robert asks, what are the living spaces at college like? So I might start with you, Josh, as a first year. Can you sort of describe what that living space is like for you? Is it, what you expected in terms of a room?
Yep. So as a first year, they've put us in rooms that are quite small. I know that if you come back in your later years, you're more likely to be put in larger rooms if you want it. But it doesn't feel as small as it looks like when you first see it, I guess, because I remember the first time I saw my room, I was like, oh wow, this is quite tiny. But I guess it doesn't really matter how big your rooms are when you're not spending a lot of time in them anyway. Or it's quite easy you can rearrange it how you want and like move stuff around. I've had quite a good time figuring out how I like to place my room around. I haven't been disappointed at all. So
wonderful. And Alicia Rose, as a more senior student and a student holding a leadership position in the college, what does that mean for your living space?
So for me, much the same as Josh, when I came in, I started obviously in a smaller room, and they're great. All you do is sleep and study in them, and there's other communal study spaces if you want to do that as well. Moving through the years, I've lived in 3 different buildings. When you get on the RA team, you get a room that is especially for you. So there's a dedicated room on each floor for the residential advisor. So you don't get to choose your room, you get allocated to one. As a second year onwards student, however, you do get to preference what room and what building you'd like to go into. So in first year, it's a random allocation. In second year, you get to submit a form which goes to Jordan, and you get to preference, I think, around about 5 rooms from number 1 to number 5. And then Jordan has a really difficult job of putting everyone in allocated rooms and trying to make everyone as happy as possible, which must nearly be impossible, but she manages to do it. And this kind of goes off of we accumulate what we call room points, which means the more things you engage with in college, the more points you accumulate. And the more points you have, the more likely you are to get the room that you want. So you get to do that. As one of the most senior members now, my room is pretty huge, which is very, very lovely for me. But definitely as you grow through college, you get the opportunity to upgrade your room. Often the first year rooms, the smaller rooms, are more modern. And as you upgrade to the bigger rooms, they're in older buildings. So they're a bit different, but it's up to everyone's personal preference.
Thank you. So we're going to wrap things up. Got one more question for you all as we finish up, but if anyone does have any further questions either for the students or for Jordan, who's been wonderful at answering questions in the chat, she will hopefully be able to provide an email address and contact for Lincoln. So do get in contact, do go on site and have a look and really understand what the college experience is like. They'll be able to connect you with thank you, Jordan. They'll be able to connect you with some current students that might be from your hometown or who might be studying a similar degree to you. So you can really speak to them about what that college experience is like and what the transition from school to university and then from university into the workforce is like. It's always best to hear that from the people that are experiencing that. So as we finish up this afternoon, I'm keen to hear from each of you your top 3. I'm sure there are many, and as someone said earlier, the answer is everything, but your top 3 things that you would say to someone who is thinking about living at Lincoln. So in quick summary, we'll start with you, Alicia. How would you answer that? Top 3 things as to why someone should live at Lincoln?
Oh, that is so hard. So firstly, I'd do the friends. The amount of friends I met over 4 years is insane. I'm still in contact with people who I only went to college with for 1 year. So you meet a whole different new group of people each year, as well as the people who stay the same. So yeah, friends would be number one. 2 would be social life, and the different events and different things that constantly happening. I like being busy, and so when I was working, when I was doing my volunteer role at the college, when I was studying, as well as having a bit of a social life, it meant that I didn't have to go off site for a social life. That was just surrounded by me every day, and different things like walking to the dining hall would sometimes take me 15 minutes when it is only a 1 minute walk, just because I'd get stuck talking to people. And 3 would be academics. So being able to meet people who are studying like things, but then also people studying completely different things, which they are so interested and passionate about, is really, really cool. And also like the different panel sessions, like Alicia Rose said, being able to meet industry professionals and see how they got to where they are, because everyone has a different journey getting to the job they want. So being able to hear those different stories and go, okay, so I might not get there on the normal expected route that I wanted when I left year 12, and that's fine. But my journey is a little bit different, and that makes me unique.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing. And Sam, how about you? Same question.
Top 3, just to try and differ from Alicia, the location is in a brilliant spot just in North Adelaide. There's everything nearby. You've got cinemas, you have food shops, and you have the footy oval down the road as well. It's fantastic. Number 2, yeah, again with the location, it's really close to uni, so it's just you can walk down to uni if you're at Adelaide Uni or Uni SA. It's fantastic, very convenient. And yeah, number 3, the events, the friends, just everything Alicia already said. It's just fantastic. I can't, it's just amazing.
Wonderful. Thank you. Alicia Rose?
Obviously, again, I have to say friends, but I'll say friends and social all in together. That is a huge element of college, and that's why you come. I mean, you can get academic support at uni if you wanted, and you could get student accommodation that doesn't provide any of that, which is cheaper, but we come here for the college experience, and so that's a huge part. For me, also, it's the facilities, being able to have a gym on site, a PT that comes to see us on site, having your academic support, your pastoral care support. That is huge. I was only saying the other day, sometimes I just walk across the front lawns near the administration building, which is this beautiful old stone building. And I don't know, I look around and I just think, well, what a wonderful place to live. I don't know, I always have, and I just think it's a beautiful campus, and those facilities are wonderful. And lastly, for me, is the opportunities that you get just from living here, the people you meet, the contacts you make, and the leadership opportunities. Obviously, I've been on 2 of the 3 teams, and the things that I've learnt, I will stick with me forever. And these opportunities have been fantastic to work with other student leaders, to work with Jordan. It's something that I wouldn't have been able to get anywhere else.
Fantastic. And lastly, Josh?
Yep. So I would say probably the first thing is the freedom. So I can do whatever I want. I guess like with the right amount of guidance that we need, but you don't have people watching over you as you might expect to at a college. The second thing I think is the diversity. So everybody is like so different. Like I would never expect to be friends with the type of people that I have become friends with living here, like people that would not usually be drawn to in a different setting. And then my third thing would be the location. As Sam said, it's smack bang in the middle of Adelaide. You can literally go anywhere you want without needing a car, like anywhere you need, I guess. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, all of you, for sharing your experiences today. I think it's fairly obvious what those benefits of living in a residential community, and particularly at Lincoln College, are. And no matter your journey, your path, where you're from, what you're studying, there really is a place for you at Lincoln, and to find your friends and the connections and leadership opportunities and so on. So what better to hear that from the students themselves. So thank you all for your time. I know we've gone a little bit over, but thank you for those that have asked questions today. Please do stay in contact with Lincoln on their social media, and do contact Jordan. She's provided her email there in the chat. If you have any further questions at all, or if your family or your parents want to ask anything further as well, this session today has been recorded, so we will send the recording out. If you did want to share that with anyone that might be interested in studying in Adelaide and looking for accommodation. So thank you all so much. All the best with your studies, and take care. See you.